Hello, welcome to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got a very special announcement because I've been asked to co-host the Mafia Romance Readathon that's taking place between the 1st and 10th of May. So if you don't know, the Mafia Romance Readathon has now been running for 5 years, and it was created by Jenn from the Book Refuge. I've been participating in this readathon for the last couple of years, but only as a participant, and so this year, like I said, I'm so excited to have been asked to be one of the co-hosts. Now, if you're new to my channel, then you might not know, but I predominantly read dark and mafia romances, and on the second Monday of every month I share a Mafia Romance Monday video. So this readathon has absolutely been made for me, and I've got so many recommendations and so many previous videos to share with you. So like I said, this is the mastermind of Jenn from the Book Refuge. She is the creator of this particular readathon, and this year there are 4 co-hosts: myself, Amber from Amber Reads Romance, Jess from Honest Fiction, and Kyan from Kyan Is Booked. Like I said, this is going to be taking place between Thursday the 1st of May and Saturday the 10th of May, and the goal is to read as many mafia romances as you can in those 10 days. Now, for every book that you read during the readathon, you can actually score points, and you can do this in 2 ways. One is to tick off prompts from a pre-made bingo board, and the other is to read oddly specific mafia romances that will score you additional points. Now, depending on how many points you earn during the readathon, you'll then earn yourself a rank in the mafia hierarchy, and it goes from enforcer all the way up to a don or donna at the top. Now, last year it wasn't too difficult to get the status of don or donna, but this year Jenn has made it a little bit harder, so you do need to earn yourself some more points in order to get the coveted title of don or donna. So like I said, there's 2 ways to earn points. The first is with the bingo board. Now, this is a pre-made bingo board and it has 16 prompts on it, so it's a 4x4 board. Now, you can tick off more than 1 prompt for 1 book. So for example, if you read a book that is a Russian mafia romance and it's also an age gap, you can tick off both of those squares. But once you've ticked off those squares, you can't recount them, because each square is worth 1 point, and once you've earned the point for that square, you can't then count the points again. However, if you earn yourself a bingo, which is a straight line in any direction, a horizontal, vertical or diagonal, you will earn yourself an additional 5 points, but you can only have a maximum of 4 bingos, and you also get an additional 10 points if you wipe out the entire board. So in total, the board is worth 46 points. Then you can also earn up to 67 points with some oddly specific prompts. So in addition to ticking off the prompts on the board and scoring yourself some bingos, you can also earn yourself some additional points by ticking off some very oddly specific additional prompts, and I'll go through those with you shortly. Now, focusing on the bingo board first, if we go from the top left, the first prompt is to follow the host, and that's a really simple one. You can earn yourself 1 point straight away very quickly. All you have to do is go and follow all of the hosts. So if you're not subscribed yet to any of the hosts' YouTube channels or to their Instagram page, please go there now and make sure that you follow them or subscribe to their channels. The next prompt is also pretty easy. It's a new to you author, so all you have to do is pick up a mafia romance from an author that you haven't read before. The next one along is audiobook. So again, all you have to do is listen to an audiobook. So any of the books you pick, you can listen to as an audiobook and score yourself an additional point. Next up, we've got Cosa Nostra. So this is an Italian mafia romance, but very specific to Sicily. So these are mafia romances by heroes or heroines that are either in Sicily itself or are of Sicilian heritage, and they are known as Cosa Nostra romances. Now, I'm not going to recommend any specific Cosa Nostras today because I have made a couple of videos already that follow Italian mafia romances, so I'll put a link to those recommendation videos in the link below, and you'll find some Cosa Nostra recommendations in those videos. Same for captive romances. I've done a captive mafia romance video before, so you can go and check that out. likewise for Italian mafia romances. The next one is single parent, and this is an interesting one because I've never done a video just dedicated to single parents in mafia romances. I have done a general romance recommendation video featuring single parents, but not specifically mafia romances. So a couple that I would recommend if you haven't read them already. The first one is Brutal Savage by Lilian, and the other one is Kingdom Fall by A. Zavarelli. Both of those feature a single father, in fact, and both of those require that the mafia hero gets himself a nanny to look after those children. So the next one is Share Your TBR, which is also a fairly simple one to do. All you need to do is decide which books you're going to be reading during the readathon and then let us know. Make sure you tag us on social media so that we can see what you're going to be picking up. Next in the series, again, a fairly easy one. So if you've already started a mafia series, you just need to pick up the next one in that series. And then after that we have Age Gap. Now again, I have done a couple of age gap romance recommendation videos, but not specifically to mafia. However, most mafia romances you read will have some kind of age gap in them. It's very, very common for a much older mafia hero in his early 30s going into his 40s to be arranged in marriage or have a relationship with a woman in their early 20s. So you've got loads and loads of options with age gap. That will be a fairly easy one to tick off. But if you are looking for a recommendation for this, then I would recommend When She Unravels by Gabrielle Sands. This is book 1 in her Fallen series, so I would highly recommend this series overall. And also Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. This is book 9 in her Perfectly Imperfect series, and this will actually tick off a number of prompts for you and get you some additional points, because this is in fact Jenn from the Book Refuge recommended read, so this will earn you 5 points just for that. And it does tick off the assassin prompt as well as age gap and female boss, so you'll score yourself quite a few points if you pick up this particular book. So after age gap on the board we have Irish Mob. Again, I've already got an Irish mafia romance recommendation video, so I'll pop that link down below. Hero is a boss. I have done a recommendation video for this. It was called Falling for the Boss, I believe. And next one up is Bratva. I've got again a recommendation video featuring Russian mafia romances, and I'll also have another one coming out at the start of next month as well. So the readathon will have already started at that point, but if during the readathon you want some additional inspiration, look out for my upcoming Russian mafia romance recommendation video at the start of May. Next prompt is any rec from a host, and that could be one of the 5 books that we've recommended to you specifically for this readathon. Each of those will score you 5 points. So actually it will score you automatically 6 points if you pick up one of those and then tick off this square as well. But it also applies to any other books that we've recommended. So if you've watched any of our videos before and we've recommended a mafia romance, then you can count that as a rec from a host and that will score you 1 point. Next up we've got Red on the cover, and of course this one is actually quite common with mafia romances. There's a lot of mafia romances that are quite dark backgrounds but then will have red writing on them or other red colours on them. And there are even some mafia romances like Blurred Red Lines, which is a book that I've read recently, that even has the word red on the front cover, right, not just the colour itself. Now, I haven't actually done a mafia romance recommendation with this, but it might be interesting for me to do so. But I have got a couple of recommendations for you where there is red on the cover, books I've read recently. And with first up is Mafia Mistress by Mila Finelli. This has obviously got a lady in a red dress. Also, the author's name is in red. And I would absolutely highly recommend this book, this series. This will also tick off a couple of additional prompts for you. This is an age gap, it's an arranged marriage, it is set in Italy. So again, lots of prompts that you can tick off with this book. And then the other one, which is a very iconic red dress on the front of this one, this is Twisted Emotions by Cora, Reilly. And again, this would earn you a couple of additional prompts as well as scoring you some additional points for oddly specific. So a great one to read if you haven't yet, because obviously this one is very iconic and also written before 2020 as well. And then finally, just for the bingo board, we've got Arranged Marriage. And again, I have done an arranged marriage mafia romance recommendation video. So Like I say, all of those videos I will have linked in the description box below, so you will have hours and hours of entertainment with me recommending lots and lots of different Mafia romances that will not only fit these prompts perfectly, but will earn you quite a few points in the other categories as well. So after the bingo board, there's a second way for you to earn some additional points, and I've briefly touched on some of those as I've been talking already, and you might have been a bit confused about what I was saying, but I'm now going to put up the board which shows you can earn additional points for completing oddly specific reading prompts. So there were slightly different points. We've got a 2-point category, a 3-point category, and finally a 5-point category. Again, some of these oddly specific prompts I've actually got dedicated videos for already, so I'm not going to linger on them too long, but where I haven't, then I'll recommend 1 or 2 books for you so you can start thinking about how you might tick off some of these points. So starting off then with the 2-point category, the first one is cartel romances. Now, I haven't read very many cartel romances before, but I have read a few. And I have got a video called Rest of the World, which is basically Mafia romances that do not feature Italian, Russian or Irish Mafia romances, which I consider to be the big 3. When you're reading Mafia romances, the most common types of Mafia romances are Italian, Russian and Irish, but of course there are also additional Mafia romances that you can read, including cartel, yakuza and the triads as well. So for cartel romance recommendations, look at my Rest of the World video and you'll get a couple of recs in there. Next one is Woman on the Run, and I recently did do a video which was about characters on the run, so you can check that one out to earn yourself some additional points. Then we've got a fairy tale retelling. Now, when I first started my channel, I did do a Beauty and the Beast retelling romance recommendation video, so you can check that out. That does have some Mafia romances in theirs. But more recently, we have Bianca Cole, and she has written a series of books called Once Upon a Villain, and they are all loosely based on fairy tales. The only book I've read in that series is Hook, and that was obviously based on Peter Pan. So if you are interested in that, check that series out. I also really liked a book called Bought by the Beast by Lexi Hart, and that was a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And then I would also recommend Measha Stone. She has got a series of books called the Ever After series. Again, they're all based on fairy tales. The first one in that series is Beast, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but there's also Tower, which is a Rapunzel retelling, Hound, which is a Fox and the Hound retelling, and so on. So you kind of get the gist with those. Next up, we've got BDSM. Now, again, a lot of Mafia romances do have some form of BDSM elements in them. Because they are dark romances, our heroes tend to be very dominant, so they like submissive women, and you do find a lot of kind of spankings and bondage and that sort of thing in Mafia romances. But for me, they're not necessarily truly BDSM stories that really delve into that lifestyle and, you know, operate with a series of rules, if you like, and making sure you've got safe words and all of that sort of thing. So if you're looking for something that is a little bit more around BDSM for healing, then I would recommend Savage Tracker by Maggie Cole, which has got a really great example in here of how our hero uses BDSM in order to kind of help the heroine with some trauma that she's been through in the past, and she's able to explore her sexuality in a safe environment with our hero, making sure that she is absolutely taken care of with all the rules in place that is required in this type of relationship. So would definitely recommend this particular one. Next up is Assassins, which is also worth 2 points. Again, I've got a dedicated video for romance recommendations featuring assassins, and like I said before, Jenn's pick is also an assassin romance as well. Next up is rival families, and of course with Mafia romances you do get a lot of rival families. Either that is through arranged marriage, bringing 2 families together that were once enemies, or because there is some sort of like captive situation where someone from another family is kidnapped and then ends up with the hero. And one of those that I can recommend is Mafia Madman, where we have Enzo, who is definitely an enemy of Fausto and his family, and then takes Frankie's sister as his captive in retribution for what's been done to him in the first 2 books in this series. So definitely a rival family situation, and would highly recommend. Of course, another absolute classic that I had to recommend in here is Twisted Pride by Cora Reilly. I don't think you get any more of a rival family situation than you do with Remo and his family in Las Vegas. And the outfit in Chicago, especially after Remo kidnaps Serafina on her wedding day and keeps her captive with him in Las Vegas. So a very, very classic mafia story, very beloved by many mafia romance lovers. And again, this one will tick off a number of points on your bingo board, including, you know, captive, rival families, red on the cover, Italian mafia, and probably a few more as well, depending on how you read this one. Next up then, we've got second chance romances, and I haven't got a dedicated video for this one, but if you are looking for a second chance romance, then I definitely recommend Blooded Hands by Adelaide Forrest and Shattered Secrets by Lilian Harris. Then the last two in the 2-point category, the first one is Ruthless or Vicious in the title. For Ruthless, obviously I'm going to recommend the book that I've recommended for this readathon, which is Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. A little bit more on that shortly. Ruthless Heir by A.D. James. This will also tick off a cartel mafia romance for you. And also another of my all-time favourites, Ruthless Stranger by Maggie Cole. This is book 1 in her Mafia Wars series. Would highly recommend this whole series. For Vicious, we've got Vicious Hearts by Jagger Cole. This again will tick off a number of other prompts for you as well, including red on the front cover, Irish mafia, the hero is a boss, and also an assassin in this one as well. And then we've got Vicious Protector by Maggie Cole. This is book 4 in her Mafia Wars series. So you can see there's quite a few books in this series that will tick off quite a few prompts on the board as well if you wanted to dive into this series and you haven't done so yet. And the final prompt in the 2-point category is books that were published before 2020. And of course, quite a lot of mafia romances have been published more recently, but there's still quite a few old school romances that I really highly recommend. Of course, we have anything by Cora Reilly, particularly from the Born in Blood series, because she started writing those back in 2014. You've also got the Boston Underworld series by A. Zavarelli. The first book in that series is called Crow, and she started that series back in 2016. And then of course a recent favourite of mine, and that is Danielle Laurie's Maid series, because she started writing these back in 2018. Okay, moving on to books that are worth 3 points for you. The first up is Yakuza romances, which are Japanese mafia. Now again, I've only read a couple of these. I am looking for more, so if you've got a recommendation for me, please don't hesitate to let me know. Pop it in the comments box down below. But the Rest of the World video that I referred to earlier does have a couple of Yakuza romances in there that I can recommend, so check that video out. Next up is Female Boss or Capo. Now I have actually been starting to create a list of female bosses because I really want to put together a full romance recommendation video in this category. I've only got a handful so far, but there's a couple I would recommend and are absolutely fantastic. The first one, of course, is going to be Brutal Vows by J.T. Geissinger. I absolutely love this whole series. Once you've started with Ruthless Creatures, which I really hope you do, if you haven't read it yet, you will want to make your way through the rest of this series, and this final book in the series is also absolutely fantastic. And in this one, our heroine Rina, she ultimately becomes the boss of her mafia family. Again, the book that Jenn recommended, so you can see this does give you quite a few points, is Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. The heroine in this one, Neva, does actually have to step up and become the boss in the short term. And then finally, a book I don't really talk about a lot is Becoming His by Amy Van, and she makes such a fantastic mafia boss. Essentially, she is the girlfriend of someone who's head of the mafia. He goes missing when he's on kind of a business trip, and so she absolutely has to take the helm and make everyone else believe that he's still, you know, alive, still around. And there's some scenes in there that still really stick with me, were really, really funny, and she makes one badass mafia boss. So definitely would highly recommend that one. So the next one is Undercover Agent or Spy. Now this is quite a tough one to recommend because I feel like the very fact that you know there's an undercover or spy does mean that you've kind of spoiled the plot in some way. It's a bit of a spoiler, to say the least. But the one that I would recommend is Diamond in the Rough by Amelia Finn, and this is book 2 in her Underbelly Enchanted series. So I'm not going to say any more about that one, but there is an undercover agent or spy in that one. Next up, we've got books that have got less than 1,000 ratings, and again I would refer you to Amelia Finn's Underbelly Enchanted series. The first book in that series is The Tallest Tower, which I really did enjoy. So far there's just 3 books in this series. Books 1 and 2 I really liked. Book 3 I was a bit more disappointed by, but still really good mafia romances, so would definitely recommend that. And another one that I have recommended a few times is actually very short, so this will be a very quick, easy read for you, and you'll be able to tick it off quite quickly. It's also a cartel romance, so that will give you some additional points for that as well. That is The Devil's Vow and The Devil's Own. Now this is a duet, but they're very short, like I've said, and even together they are shorter than a full-length novel. And this will also tick off, like I said, cartel romances as well. LGBTQAI+. I've got a couple of recent recommendations for you. One book that I haven't shut up about, which is Mafia Target by Mila Finelli. And also Mafia Devil by Mila Finelli. Those are both romances. And of course I also have to recommend God of Fury by Rina, which is also an romance. It's book 5 in the Legacy of the God series, and this one is actually Jess from Honest Fiction's pick for the readathon, and not only will earn you 3 points for this particular prompt, but also 5 points for reading her recommendation as well. Now for the next 2 oddly specific prompts, I don't actually have any recommendations for you. So if you've got any recommendations for me, then I would love to hear them. They of course are Reverse Age Gap and Interracial Couple. Now I'm not saying I haven't read a book from either of these categories, I just don't remember reading them, and these aren't categories that I actually track. So when I've gone back through my spreadsheet over the last couple of years for books that I've read, I wasn't able to find anything where I'd actually specifically mentioned these 2 particular tropes. So like I say, if you've got any recommendations for me, I'd love to hear them. Please pop them in the comments down below. And I'll also make a note to capture these tropes going forward so that I can absolutely make some recommendations for you for next time. Finally then, in the 3-point category, we have Disability or Neurodivergent. I think one of the best authors for this is obviously Neva Altaj. She has got the Perfectly Imperfect series, and in every book in that series there's at least one character with a disability of some kind, so lots of representation in her stories for sure. And then the other one I wanted to recommend is His Tesoro by Emilia Rossi, where our heroine suffers from a condition called EDS, so also some great representation in this book as well. Okay, so we've covered off all of the prompts on the bingo board, which will get you at 1 point each. We have covered off all of the oddly specific prompts that will get you 2 and 3 points. And finally then we have the books that will score you 5 points. So each of the co-hosts for the readathon has put forward the book that we want to recommend to you, and if you read one of those books you'll score yourself an additional 5 points in addition to any other prompts that you might be able to tick off with it. So I've mentioned a couple of them already. The first one is God of Fury by Rina. That is Jess's pick from Honest Fiction. That is an romance, so we'll get you through 3 additional points for that, as well as scoring some points for being a Russian mafia romance as well, because Nikolai in that one is connected to the Russian mafia. I've mentioned this one a couple of times. We've got Darkest Sins by Neva Altaj. That is Jenn from the Book Refuge's pick, and like I said, this will tick off a fair few prompts for you if you go for this one. I would highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. We have Twisted Emotions by Cora Reilly, which is book 2 in the Cora Chronicles, and this one is Amber from Amber Reads Romances pick. Again, this will get you quite a few other points if you read this one as well. Now, the only book from the host recommendations that I haven't read that's been on my TBR for a while is When Heroes Fall by Giana. Darling. This is book 1 in the Heroes in Love duet. Like I said, this has been on my TBR for a while. It's the only one I haven't read, so it's very likely to be on my TBR for this particular readathon. But I may save it till last, because I'm sure that once I've read it I'm going to want to go on to the second book in that duet as well. So finally then, the book that I've recommended. Now, when Jenn asked me to tell her the book that I would recommend for this readathon, I felt an overwhelming amount of pressure, because I wanted to make sure that the book that I recommended people would really love and was something that I really truly believed in. And the one book that came to mind immediately, and probably is one of my all-time favourite Mafia romances, is Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. This is very much a comfort read for me. I've read it on a number of occasions. I've also listened to the audiobook, and if you haven't read the audiobook, then I would highly recommend. It's narrated by Troy Duran and Brooke Daniels, and like I say, this is very much a comfort read for me. I absolutely love Cage, who is our hero in here, and he is one of my all-time favourite book mafia boyfriends, and of course he's a Russian mafia hero as well. So we have been through the bingo board, all of the points, and as an example, if you were to pick up Ruthless Creatures, you would actually score yourself a minimum of 10 points and a maximum of 12 points, so it's quite a high earner. You would score yourself points for the fact that the hero is a boss, because Cage is the head of the Bratva. This is a Russian mafia romance, so you would score a point for it being a Bratva romance. And also, of course, you would score yourself a point for picking any rec from a host. It's also worth 2 additional points because it does have the word ruthless in the title, so that is an oddly specific rec. And of course, you score yourself 5 points for the fact that it has been recommended by me. So in total then, that would be 10 points. However, if you also listen to this one as an audiobook, you would score yourself an additional points. And if this was a new to your author and you'd never read J.T. Geissinger before, this would score you an additional point. So this could be worth for you between 10 and 12 points, depending on those factors. So definitely worth picking this one up to score points, but also because it's absolutely fantastic. Like I say, really did enjoy this one. And as always, J.T. Geissinger has some great banter in here, but also a great storyline as well. So would definitely recommend. So there we go. That is an explanation of what the Mafia Romance Readathon is all about and how you can score yourselves some points. Of course, over the 10 days, you can also expect some live shows as well. I'm hoping to take part. Obviously, with me being here in the UK, the time difference can be challenging for me to either be awake when the live shows go on, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to run some in the evening for me during the day in the US. The dates and times of those will be confirmed nearer the time. Like I said, I will put links to all of my recommendation videos that I've mentioned in the description box down below, but you can also check out my Mafia Romance Monday playlist, because like I said, every second Monday of the month I release a Mafia Romance video. If you've not seen any of those before, then you'll have hours and hours of entertainment to go through with some great recommendations in there that will cover most of the prompts on the bingo board, but also for the oddly specific prompts as well. So it's definitely worth checking those out. And where I didn't have any dedicated videos, I've kind of thrown in 1 or 2 recommendations for you just to give you some food for thought if you were struggling to pick out any books that will hit those prompts for you. If you've got any recommendations for me, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Please put those in the comments box down below, because very soon I'll be building my very own TBR for the readathon, trying to maximise my points to see how many prompts I can tick off, how many books I can squeeze in those 10 days. And I'll probably release my TBR video next week, so stay tuned for that just to see what I will be reading during the readathon. But definitely When Heroes Fall will be on my list for sure, because I really want to pick up the book that's been recommended by Kayam. Now, if you want to know more about the readathon, then please check out Jenn from the Book Refuge's announcement video. She takes you through the instructions in more detail. Also, she's provided a link to a Google Drive where you can find all of the supporting materials and relevant documents related to the readathon in there. And I'd also highly encourage you, like I said, to make sure you subscribe to the other hosts. Check out their videos, because they'll be making some Mafia Romance content in the next couple of weeks to also recommend books to you and help you build your TBRs. And of course, don't forget to join us between the 1st and the 10th of May. And I really can't wait to see all of your TBRs and what you've chosen to read. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. As always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Once you start with Ruthless Creatures, you're going to want to So next up we've got rival families, and you do tend to get a lot of rival family romance. And you do tend to get a lot of... Right, another 2 points. Next up we've got rival families. Point by making bingos. Oh. This is book 9, I believe, in her perfectly